So, tell me about being a scholar mother or a mother scholar, your experiences of it, and um, where do you, what suggestions that you might have for other academic women raising children as well, and dealing with those realities that go with that.
When I took a job initially on the tenure track, I was an assistant professor, and I remember the person on my hiring committee tell me to pretend like I only had one child at that point, so pretend that she didn't really exist. She felt like she felt like I would have an easier time on the tenure track if I
That's a Scooby Doo moment.
I know. I
Huh?
pretended I didn't have a child. And she said, never like we know, and she was a mother herself. She said, we know that kids get sick, but never use your child's sickness or illness as a reason to miss a doctor's appointment. Always blame it on yourself, like I have a cold or whatever. And I thought, I'm not going to live like that. I mean, there's no way I'm going to hide my child. And so, we're talking, she's about to be 19. So, almost 20 years ago, maybe things are a little different. I'm a department chair now, and I always tell the new faculty, like, I would love to see kids on this floor, kids running around, kids in the office, kids can come to a meeting if you don't have childcare. I'd love for it to be a more parent-centered environment. I don't want people to feel like they have to hide the fact that they have a child. Wow, that I don't know, 20 years later, I still can't get over that advice.
Mhm. And I
Yeah,
started, I
loosely
did not.
called advice.
Advice.
Yeah, yeah, air quote that up. I'm sorry, Venus.
It's okay. My start was a little different. I started my family. I became pregnant with my son in my first year of doc studies. And I remember being so afraid, and this was at the U of I, University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. And I remember being so afraid that I could not tell the faculty. Well, I told my advisor, Wanda Pillow, I said, I'm pregnant. And I burst out into tears, right? And this is not only a PWI, this is like white men's territory down in Champaign at that university. But at the time, our doc program was predominantly Black led by Black men like James Anderson, William Trent, right? And then Larry Parker, strong multiracial, multi-ethnic, linguistically diverse community of Black and brown scholars. And Dr. Pillow like raised his hand, oh my God, this is great. I'm like, oh gosh. And she's like, I had my child in grad school. Then I went to Professor Torres said, Arlene Torres. She says, oh my God, I had twins in grad school. I mean, and then they took it out into the hallway. It's like a big announcement, like a big celebration. Even Dr. Anderson, tall self, like bear hug. Yeah, this is great. Winters. I'm like, what? So I was shocked. Now
That,
keep in mind, Tony, the community I'm coming from, where we were taught that you didn't necessarily mix the two. But I'm also trying to prove through my dissertation that every Black girl, Black woman I know that did get pregnant, it didn't necessarily stop their life trajectory. That wasn't our story. That was happening in white females, circles where they were just damned to hell, for getting pregnant or having children before they finished their education. I think in our case, of course, we know, right? We've witnessed policies become more punitive of girls and women who had children. So keep in mind, I tell my students this all the time in policy class. This whole idea of a teen pregnancy thing, that's really, really new. That's like Nixon and Reagan, policies. Before that, our grandmothers had they had kids as teenagers. Some of our parents were having kids as soon as they exited high school. It only became a conservative, policy discourse for the most part, afterwards. And so, but you could tell that the academy can taint your thinking about motherhood, parenting, relationships, etc. Period. Right. And so, but nonetheless, it's funny when you ask the question, Tony, about tell me about mother scholars. Oh, I hated that. Oh, I remember when some of my colleagues, like Jennifer and others, pivoted towards that. I was like, what the? Can I curse on here? I sound like the kids' TikTok. Can I
Yeah,
curse?
it's my show. Go ahead.
WTF? I mean, it was just like, you know, how is we're talking about mother, just when Black women were allowed to become scholars and focus on our intellect, our intellectual powers, our creativity, people wanted to focus on this thing called mother scholar. And as a Black girl, growing up in a Black family, Black community, mothering was always valued. And I did not want to give that to white people.
Okay.
I just did not want to give something so sacred to white people. I didn't want to bring it up in the classroom. I didn't necessarily need to bring it up in research. And I'm like, is there anything that's sacred? But now looking back at the mother scholar movement, especially coming from Black, Indigenous, and other women of color, I see why it's important to claim our full humanity.
Before it gets claimed for you.
Before it gets claimed for us or other people tell our stories. Yes.
Yeah.
I think I went that road because it was an integral part of my identity. I mean, it's how I operated with my students too. I mean, growing up in a Cuban household, mothering, my mom is the center. She's still the center. And, I feel like that's how I operate with my students. I'm always going to give and sacrifice and support no matter what. And so it was something that I couldn't separate. How I mothered was similar to how I taught and how I mentored. And again, like I had been operating in these bifurcated spaces for so long, it felt like I could combine motherhood and scholarship and research and be whole.